In the town of Ogden Marsh, Iowa, not a soul remains as flames engulf every corner in the dead of night. The chaos began 2 days prior. Locals gather for a high school baseball game, abruptly interrupted when Rory strides onto the field, clutching a shotgun and appearing disoriented. Deputy Russell swiftly clears the field while Sheriff David approaches Rory, assuming he's intoxicated, and attempts to disarm him gently. However, Rory raises his shotgun, prompting David to react instinctively and fire, fatally shooting him. Later, David meets with Rory's wife Peggy and son Kurt, expressing remorse and clarifying that Rory's intoxicated state left him no alternative. However, Peggy refuses to believe him and slaps him, asserting that Rory had been sober for years. Despite his actions, David struggles with guilt, unable to find solace in sleep, yet his pregnant wife Judy reassures him that he acted correctly. The following day, David receives a surprising call from the lab, revealing that Rory's blood tests, conducted twice, show no traces of alcohol. Baffled and distressed, David visits the baseball field and encounters school principal Ben, who sits in a daze reminiscent of Rory. It takes a few attempts for David to get Ben's attention, and they engage in conversation. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Deirdre brings her husband Bill to see Dr. Judy. Bill insists he's merely fatigued and downplays his condition, appearing somewhat disconnected. Despite Judy's inquiries, Bill continues to offer the same response. In the evening, Deirdre hears a noise in the garage and hurries to investigate, finding the tractor running but no sign of Bill. After shutting it off, Deirdre hears her son scream, prompting her to rush back to the house to find him. Her concern grows when she discovers his empty room, but he soon finds her and warns her to be quiet. They seek refuge in the wardrobe as the child reveals that Bill is armed with a knife. As they hear Bill ascending the stairs, they try to remain silent, but Bill discovers them and locks the door. Unmoved by his family's desperate pleas, Bill proceeds to douse the house in gasoline and set it ablaze. By the time the police and firefighters arrive, it's too late. Deirdre and the child perish in the fire. Bill, seemingly indifferent, was merely mowing the lawn as his house burned. When Judy confronts him angrily, he responds with a nonchalant whistle. Later, he's escorted to the police station to await his transfer, standing in his cell with a vacant stare. Outside of town, 3 hunters traverse the bog and are startled to find a parachute entangled in the trees. Upon extracting it from the water, they recoil in alarm upon discovering the body of an army pilot. The police promptly arrive to investigate, and Russell recalls rumors of a plane crash in the bog, initially dismissed as improbable. David and Russell opt to explore the bog by boat and are astounded to find a submerged plane. Meanwhile, a drone camera in the sky focuses on the town, displaying the words, "Initiate Containment Protocol." With a hypothesis forming, David investigates the town's water source, confirming it originates from the bog, with Rory's residence being the first supplied. An army plane crashing into a river without news coverage raises suspicion, leading David to suspect that the plane is contaminating the water and causing illness. He and Russell approach the mayor, urging him to shut down the water supply, but the mayor refuses, fearing it would harm crops and bankrupt the town. Concerned for his family's safety, David defies orders and takes it upon himself to shut off the water supply, even removing the valve to prevent it from being turned back on. Upon returning to the station, they find Bill bleeding on the cell floor, prompting concern about his condition. As they approach, Bill awakens and displays zombie-like behavior, raising alarm. David realizes Bill should have been picked up already and attempts to contact his superiors, only to discover that the phone lines are down and there's no internet connection. David steps outside to find the town completely deserted, except for a woman riding a child's bicycle. A mysterious black car photographs him, but it quickly speeds away when he approaches. In the morgue, David examines a body with stitched mouth and eyes, discovering signs of life. Another body emits noise, revealing it's also alive with a stitched face. When David attempts to remove the stitches, the medical examiner attacks him. David defends himself, causing the examiner's demise with his own tool. However, the tool turns against David until Russell intervenes, saving him. Later, David returns home and urges Judy to seek safety at her parents' house, but she insists on staying to help as the town's doctor during the crisis. Suddenly, Judy spots someone outside, prompting David to investigate the barn, where he's apprehended by the military. He's taken onto a bus filled with other locals, including Judy and Russell, and transported to a military camp set up at the local school, where people are confined behind fences. At the camp, they undergo scanning for radioactivity and body temperature. Those with concerning results, including children, are separated from their families. Unfortunately, Judy's elevated temperature leads to her being taken away by soldiers, prompting David to resist, but he's subdued and rendered unconscious. Meanwhile, Judy, tied to a stretcher, witnesses soldiers in masks, locals in distress, and bloodstains as she's sedated. Upon awakening, she discovers herself in a room filled with dozens of people restrained to stretchers and hears chaotic commotion outside. A car has crashed into the camp fences, prompting some to flee amidst the confusion. Soldiers attempt to contain them, sparking a violent riot that breaches the containment area, allowing infected individuals to escape. With the situation spiraling out of control, soldiers and doctors flee via helicopters, leaving patients behind. Meanwhile, David regains consciousness in a truck en route to another camp, where everyone receives bracelets indicating their uninfected status. Despite plans to transfer healthy individuals, David refuses to leave without Judy. Learning that the town is sealed off and escape attempts have resulted in fatal roadblocks, David confronts a neighbor but is interrupted by Russell's arrival. After finding Bill deceased at the police station, David arms himself, and upon hearing noises, he and Russell take cover. David reveals Judy's pregnancy as the cause of her fever, and Russell agrees to assist in her rescue. Returning to Judy, she notices her friend Becca lying on a stretcher nearby. Their conversation is abruptly interrupted by a strange noise, and a shadowy figure emerges, revealing Ben covered in blood and wielding a farming fork. Clearly infected, he proceeds to move about the room, mercilessly attacking patients with the fork. As he approaches Becca, Judy's scream distracts him, prompting Ben to turn towards her, fork raised, only to be shot by David and Russell. Rescuing Judy and Becca, they emerge outside to a scene of utter devastation resulting from the riot. The group navigates through the town, encountering destruction and flames at every turn. Amidst the chaos, they witness a disturbed individual assaulting a car but manage to remain undetected. While searching for a functional vehicle, they suddenly hear a noise and take cover behind a truck, only to discover hunters chasing and shooting people before loading their bodies onto the truck. Fortunately, they quickly drive away, allowing the group to continue their journey. Eventually, they approach Becca's boyfriend's house, prompting her to hurriedly search for him. Scotty greets them cautiously, brandishing his weapon, but he apologizes when David points his gun at him, explaining he acted out of caution. Scotty reassures them that his mother is safe and gathering supplies, but their conversation is cut short when they notice people approaching. Seeking refuge, the group hides in the barn, observing as soldiers surround the house and forcibly remove the old lady for testing. Unable to bear the sight, Scotty disregards David's warnings and rushes out to save his mother, only to be shot by the soldiers along with her, their bodies set ablaze by a flamethrower. With orders to clear the area, a soldier enters the barn, but David and Russell swiftly apprehend him and lead him away under threat. The young soldier admits he lacks details. Their squadron received orders and flew over without full knowledge. He expresses his reluctance to harm civilians, promising secrecy if they release him. David, still menacing, grants him freedom, and the soldier reports no one's around, urging the group to depart. The following day, they reach David's home. While Russell repairs a car, the others gather supplies. Judy visits the nursery to bid farewell, unaware of infected Peggy behind her. Hearing a commotion downstairs, David investigates, finding Judy bound to a chair. Suddenly, infected Kurt attacks him, and as David reaches for his fallen gun, Peggy stabs his hand, pinning it to the floor. She seizes the gun, pointing it at Judy. To divert her attention, David mentions he was responsible for her husband's death. Peggy redirects the gun at David, who swiftly disarms her. He frees his hand, pushing Kurt away and fatally stabbing Peggy. Kurt seizes the gun, nearly harming David, but Russell intervenes, shooting him through the window. David releases Judy as Russell enters, ensuring the bodies are shot again for safety. Judy, unsettled, questions Russell's health, but David emphasizes their debt to him. The group departs in the car, but Becca's cough sparks concern. Russell suspects infection, leading to tension among them. As a helicopter passes overhead, David veers the car into a car wash to evade detection. While they wait for the helicopter to depart, Becca notices someone outside. Suddenly, the car wash activates, trapping them inside. David attempts to maneuver the car out, but it's stuck on the platform. Infected employees swarm the vehicle, breaking windows in their attempt to reach inside. David battles one of them, while another targets Becca, whom she fends off by smashing his head against the car and pushing him away. Despite David's efforts to remove the assailants, another employee appears and strangles Becca with a hose, dragging her out and killing her. David halts the car, and he and Russell dispatch the assailants, while Judy rushes to Becca, but arrives too late. Their situation worsens when a passing helicopter destroys their car. Subsequently, the trio begins trekking along the road and eventually locates Russell's truck, which sustained damage from spikes. As they observe the mysterious black car nearing, David proposes they commandeer it, but Russell's response is needlessly aggressive. He scatters the spikes onto the road, causing the car to overturn and crash. An agent emerges from the wreckage, prompting Russell to attempt shooting him, but David intervenes, insisting on an explanation. The agent reveals that the plane was transporting a prototype biological weapon intended to destabilize a population. It crashed while en route to Texas for destruction. The incubation period for the virus is 48 hours. In anger, David strikes the agent and demands his cooperation, but Russell fatally shoots the man. David reluctantly accepts that Russell might be infected. He disarms Russell of his rifle, but Russell admits he's armed with another gun and aims it at them, asserting his authority by reminding them of his previous acts of heroism. Russell then orders the couple to move, treating them as captives. As they continue walking, Russell discharges all the rifle's bullets into the air, prompting David to try to soothe him. After Russell lowers the gun, David strikes him and seizes the weapon. Russell gazes at the sky and finally acknowledges his deteriorating condition. He requests to accompany them a bit longer, seeking their companionship during his final moments. Later, the group encounters a blocked road to the highway, guarded by the military. Russell offers to buy them time. David hands him the gun, and Russell rushes toward the soldiers to divert their attention. Despite his efforts, the soldiers shoot him down, providing enough distraction for David and Judy to stealthily bypass the town border. Eventually, they reach a truck stop where they are dismayed to discover 3 loaded trucks meant for evacuating healthy individuals, all containing deceased occupants. The bullet shells suggest that the government had orchestrated this outcome from the start. Fortunately, there is a regular truck nearby, prompting David to collect supplies for their escape. While in the garage, he discovers an army radio and overhears a communication hinting at a significant event in 10 minutes. Meanwhile, he notices the hunter's truck with the bodies, indicating their presence. Suddenly, the power cuts off in the building. Judy, sensing danger, swiftly hides and arms herself with a knife. Despite her efforts, the hunters discover her presence. Judy flees and takes refuge in a room filled with more bodies. As a hunter inspects the room, Judy suppresses her revulsion and conceals herself among the bodies, avoiding detection as the hunter exits. Judy approaches the door and nearly screams when someone touches her, but fortunately, it's just David. They hastily make their way to the truck, and upon opening the door, a body falls out. Inside the vehicle, none of the keys David took from the office function, so he searches the fallen body for another set. He retrieves the keys, but before he can act, a hunter grabs his leg, initiating a struggle. As the second hunter attempts to enter the truck, Judy swiftly dispatches him with a shot. After a brief altercation, David douses the hunter with oil and ignites him using his lighter, rolling away to avoid the flames. The couple then departs in the truck, equipped with the military radio David brought along, allowing them to tune into a countdown that soon hits 0. They suddenly hear an explosion, and a very bright light illuminates the whole area, revealing that the military has blown up their town. The blast wave from the bomb reaches the truck, sending it flying off the road. Fortunately, they both survive and hold hands as they witness their beloved hometown crumbling into ruins. The couple starts making their way to the nearest city, unaware that a drone camera is tracking them and displaying the words, "Initiate containment protocol." Meanwhile, news broadcasts across the country claim that the town was engulfed by a normal fire exacerbated by wind, and the explosion witnessed by some was an accident at a petrochemical plant. A reporter is on site, but the transmission is suddenly interrupted by an infected person. Don't forget to subscribe and enable notifications for more content like this. Thank you for watching.